Hey, hey, guys. Everyone in the house. Let's see what we got going on. Good. We got a long list of attendees. Cool. Give me just a minute. We're going to bring Andres on. I want to make sure that the dude is here for the beginning of the webinar. Countdown to Andres. So, how is everybody today? Really want to thank you for doing this. I know your time is valuable. And speaking of time, I've got a feeling that this could be one long webinar. We've decided to open it up to the public because we want everybody to have a chance to hear what Andres has got to say. It's going to be a lot like our prior BHC premium webinars in the sense that it's pitch free. You know, there's nothing to buy. In this case, there's a product being demonstrated at length, but if you're not interested in the product, that's no big deal. I think one of the things you're going to learn throughout this process is that there are literally 1,000,001 ways to invade a niche to take it over, to dominate it and to capitalize on it. And we're going to investigate a lot of those today. And the way we're going to do it is to have Andres introduce us to his product and sort of walk us through how he builds websites and makes money from the process. Along the way, we'll have time for your questions, which will be great. What we'll do is we'll incorporate the questions into sort of his build process. He can tell you how it relates to both SERPshaker and then sort of how you might be able to adapt the concepts that he uses to the kind of methods that you use or the projects that you've got going on. Regardless of where you are with your business, this could be a game changer for you because I've known Andres for a little while now. And first of all, he doesn't hold anything back. He's as honest and straightforward as it gets. And so you're going to get information from somebody who's actively doing this and making a good living from it the whole time, which is pretty special because if you're familiar with a lot of what happens in internet marketing, webinars, they're pitch fests, and you're not always sure if the person actually knows what they're talking about, and even above that, whether they can use what they're talking about to actually make a living. And Andres has got, like 25 children that all stay at home and hang out with him because of the success that he has achieved through his work in internet marketing and specifically with SERPshaker and its predecessor. And so this is a pretty exciting time for all of us. I hope you enjoy it. So anyway, I want to address one thing really quick. I got a number of emails and private messages from people who said that there was some issue with the registration form for the webinar, but it did not impact your ability to register. And I'm bringing this up because it's possible that we're going to see some more of those errors with future webinar registrations. The bottom line is it registers you just fine. Seems to be some issues on my end that I've got to figure out with the PHP and probably some blocks or things that I didn't fill out properly, but I'll get that squared away over time. The bottom line is I don't think it impacted any registrations, and so I hope everybody's here and ready to enjoy the call. So with that, I'm going to introduce my friend Andres. Andres, I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint you sent me so that you can walk us through it. Are you there?
Yes, I'm right here. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Absolutely perfectly fine.
Okay, awesome.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
I can, yes.
Okay. Rocket, man. And when you're ready to start the build, then we'll get in there together and I'll help you work through the questions that we get in the chat window.
Okay, I'll take over the presentation then. Very short PowerPoint. I told Doc that I'm not a PowerPoint guy. I'm more of a, just watch over my shoulder kind of training. But I realized I wanted to, I needed to introduce myself. Not everybody knows who I am. I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of guy. My name's Andres Tovar. I've been in this internet marketing thing for quite a while now. I would say I started messing with it maybe around 2008 or so. Um, I've in the slide there, if you want to go to the next one, Joe.
Sure.
Just a picture of my family there. We've got 5 little ones. Joe mentioned we had 25, but it seems like it some days. I work from home. My wife stays home with them. They're all homeschooled. So yeah, we're a little crazy. But for me, the internet marketing lifestyle was not about the fancy cars, fancy things. It was about family. So that's what that's what kind of motivates me. That's what drives me. I've been, like I said, involved in internet marketing. I started out as a carpet cleaner. I had my own carpet cleaning business, and that's how I learned the internet. Is I needed to get more clients for myself. So when I started the carpet cleaning business, instead of going the typical route of getting business cards and getting the yellow page ad and doing all that, I decided that for me, what I was going to do was I was going to get my clients through the internet. And it was kind of new back then for service type industry, but I just kind of went at it. And, if any of you have been doing internet marketing since back then, anything local back then was just very fast. I mean, within a month, we had the #1 spot in the city we were in Google and Yahoo. We pretty much dominated the first page. So it was a lot of fun. And that's how I started out. And just randomly, just to kind of give a little background into my story, randomly at a marketing conference for carpet cleaners, they started talking a little bit about internet marketing and, how it really didn't apply to the niche. And I kind of just intervened a little bit and told them what I was doing with the internet and how we were generating all these clients. And they actually booked me to come out and do a presentation the next time around on what I was doing. And at the time I was just doing it as a way of just sharing what I knew, what I had learned. That wasn't really interested in picking up clients or anything like that. But if any of you have ever spoken on stage or done a presentation, you know that immediately as you finish, you're going to get bombarded with questions and you're probably going to pick up some clients out of it. And that's how, I evolved into a local business consultant. Is I did a few of those presentations. I picked up quite a bit of clients doing it. And that's how Local Pages Ninja, this is going into the story of SERPShaker. It used to be Local Pages Ninja. Back in 2011 is when we first launched Local Pages Ninja. And it was because I worked with a lot of those service businesses, a lot of carpet cleaners. And if you've ever worked with them, you know that they don't want to just rank for one city. They wanted to rank for a service area. And what I was doing at the time was just a lot of creating the post manually for every single city that they wanted to rank for. So we created Local Pages Ninja. And we've been doing it since then, but that one was more geared towards just working with local businesses, only, ranking 100 cities or so. And I ended up moving to AdSense or trying out AdSense because I figured just one day sitting in my office, I'm like, I'm doing pretty well ranking these things in 100 cities or so. What if I add a couple more cities? So I added a couple more 100 cities. And my first test was, I believe I had like 1,000 cities loaded in, and it was still ranking just as good. It was bringing in traffic. I went ahead and put AdSense code on it, started generating there. So little by little, I've been evolving to where now every single one of our builds, we're targeting the whole United States, doing 17,000 cities or 40,000 cities, just depending on the list that we happen to use. But it's just been a process where we've been going little by little, making it better and better. And, now it's SERPShaker, but it's definitely the one tool that I use in my day-to-day business because we continuously are pumping out more and more sites. That's pretty much, what I had planned as far as the background. I told Joe that I wanted to just literally jump into a build and kind of take you to everything step by step.
Yes, that's great. I know everybody's super excited about this. The comments are just crazy. So set this up for us, Andres. What kind of let me say this. I have seen people in the months that I've sort of been involved. I bought SERPShaker, I guess, back in September, whenever you guys first released it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what I was doing with it. It's got an immense amount of power, but I had some confusion getting out of the gate, and it's one of the reasons why I thought a build today would be such a really cool idea. But I have used it for some lead generation. I have not used it for affiliate offers, but I hope you'll at least touch on some of that today. And I have been recently, as you know, probably in the last, I don't know, 10 or 12 days, I've been using it to create a string of AdSense sites. So I'm hoping that as we go through this build, even though you might be building one type of site, just out of respect for the fact that, people come at this so many different ways. There will be people who might want to use it for paper lead, lead generation, or affiliate, those kinds of things. Maybe we could just help me keep on track with that, so that we give everybody a little bit of what they can use when the webinar's wrapped up and they're stuck there with their copy of SERPshaker trying to figure out how to adapt it for themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the beauty of it really is that no matter how you're going to monetize it, the build process doesn't really change. Is that I use the same exact build process for all of my sites. It's just that I happen to monetize them in different ways. I do a lot of stuff with AdSense. AdSense was the very first money I really made online. So I've always kind of stuck with them, but there's been some growing pains on there, which we can talk about how
Sure.
I've lost accounts and have had to find new ways to create accounts and spread things over multiple accounts, that kind of thing. But I've also I'm do a lot of stuff with CPA, things like Max Bounty or CJ. We've got education lead gen offers, which I also work with a lot. But in reality, the background, it's all the same. It's like site build is just how we choose to monetize it. And at that point, you get into the aesthetics of it, just where you're going to add a banner, or instead of a banner, are you adding AdSense codes, or are you going to have a form on the right hand side, sidebar to collect the leads or anything like that. And that stuff is just simple. The main thing to worry about is building the sites and getting the traffic. Once you have traffic coming in, making money from that traffic that's the simple part. It's building up the sites, figuring out what niches tend to do better with SERPshaker. There's obviously some niches that will tend to do better, or you can pretty much attack any niche. It's just you got to find your way into it, and that comes a lot with maybe doing the keyword research, or really going after the longer tail and stop worrying about what everybody else is jumping into, but just kind of finding a way around it, which we can touch on that a little bit with as we're going through everything.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. The build is uber important, don't get me wrong, but I know there are people out there who are maybe not as far along in internet marketing as some of the rest of us, and niche selection is a big thing for them. Keyword research, maybe you could touch on some of the factors that you think make a niche lend itself to sort of a SERPshaker model. What kind of research do you do to determine new niches? And then when you have determined those new niches, how do you use keyword research to frame up the content and the tags that you use, the categories, all that kind of stuff? I think would be great to share.
Okay. And just one thing to note is a lot of the stuff that, especially if you've been doing this for a while, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to touch on will just seem like simple stuff. Like, there's no magic behind what I do. Most internet marketers that know a little bit of SEO have enough knowledge to get it going. The only difference is that I just attack it. I don't worry about all the little details or trying to get everything perfect. I'm more concerned with getting the site out there, and getting as many sites as possible out there, so that I can then kind of sit back, analyze, see which one's doing better, and then then I have an angle on that particular niche, and I can just continue attacking it with multiple websites until I can until I move on to the next niche, or the next area that we're trying to target or whatnot. But it's all really simple stuff. There's no magic. If you're listening in hoping that there's this magic thing that I'm doing different than everybody else, you might not get it. But it's just a lot of simple stuff that I kind of I say that I have my own little recipe, and I follow that for every single one of my sites. And some are winners, some are not, but I'm not sitting around waiting to see which ones are the winners or losers. By that time, I've put out more and more sites so that at the end of the day, it's the collection of the network of sites you have, whether it's AdSense or CPA or whatever, however you're monetizing. That's what ends up making the good money in the long term, is the collection of all of them together, not just one single site that's doing really good.
Yeah, I think there are two important components to what you just said, and I hope everybody is paying attention. Component one, of course, is that there's no real secret sauce. These are, if you're looking for somebody to drop, crazy pearls of wisdom around SERPShaker, that's not really what it's all about. And I think that follows into the second notion of what you said that I think is really powerful. And it's going to be hard for a lot of people to get their head around, because, I've got a deep background with private blog networks. And to me, when I build out sites, those things are assets that I expect to have for a long time. So I take care of them. I hide them. I pretty them up. I do all those kinds of things. And the SERPShaker mentality, as I understand it from guys like Andres and a few other guys that I happen to be friends with who are making ginormous amounts of money with these sites, is you don't marry these things. You throw them up left and right, and some work and some don't. You don't cry over the ones that don't work. You don't cry over the ones that maybe get hit by Google or get de-indexed. If that happens, you're just too busy concentrating on new niches and expanding into niches that did show that they worked, and you keep throwing up sites. Is that a pretty good summarization of what the mentality is, Andres?
Yeah, for the most part. The other side of that, though, is that, I've gotten some people recently after the webinar I had on Friday with Frank. They were saying, so are these like churn and burn sites where, you're not going to expect much from them? But that's not true also, though, because I've have plenty of sites that I've had for 2 years now, and to this day are still making me income. So, sure. We try to go on into the mentality that we're not married to one particular site, but you can end up, you will end up with some sites that, that are going to last long term. And some of those sites I've even turned around and flipped. And, after I've had them for a year, they've generated income for a year, I'll turn around and flip those sites. And, I stay in touch with the people that have purchased my flips, and to this day, they're still doing good. So yeah. It's not necessarily, that every single one of them is going to die out, or you can't expect much from them. But if you've got the mentality, it allows you to really take the approach of building up your network instead of just focusing on one or two sites. And, it goes completely against the grain of the typical money site idea, like you said, that we're building up this asset, or people are like, I want to build an authority site, and they spend all this time on their site and trying to make it better. So of course, when Google comes along and does something to it, they've wasted all that time. Whereas I spend maybe 30 minutes tops on each of my sites. So if something happens to my site, that's just 30 minutes I wasted. But by the time, if something does happen to the site, by the time something happens, I probably already made my investment back, and then some of that 30 minutes plus whatever I spent to buy the domain. And I've already moved on and got a couple hundred more sites out, kind of thing.
Awesome. Okay, look, I don't want to get us sidetracked anymore. Rip right into the build. I think people are just dying to see this.
All right, so let me start the screen share here. Is there anything I need to do to make sure that I'm the one presenting, or?
I'll tell you when it shows up on my screen, and I'm sure some of the other people in chat will too.
All right. Let me know if you see the keyword planner here, the Google keyword planner.
Let me stop on my side. Yep.
Okay.
We got it.
All right, perfect. Okay, so now I cheated a little bit before we started the webinar. I actually bought a domain name and all that, but let me show you how I even went about deciding what I was going to build the site on. I was thinking something along the line solar panels. So I started searching for solar. I didn't want to just do solar panel because it seems like everybody's doing solar panel. So I wanted to go the solar panel repair route. And when I did a search for that, I noticed that the monthly searches was only 140 searches a month. So it immediately turned me off from that particular approach to it. I went ahead and organized it by monthly searches, and I was just going through. And basically what I'm doing here is just kind of taking you through my mentality when I was looking for this and how I ended up. The one that we're actually going to do is pool pump repair, but I'm going to show you how I even ended up on that area to begin with, going from solar panels to pool pumps. I believe the one I saw was the solar pool heater. And so I went ahead and did a search for that, because what I'm looking for is, whenever I'm looking for a particular keyword, I want it to be at least 10,000 monthly searches. Basically, what that allows me to do is that, I know that there's enough interest there that when I bring things down to the local level, I'm going to get some of that long tail traffic, that long tail city traffic, even if it's from cities that, have very little population. I'm going to get some clicks here and there. I'm not trying to rank for the major cities that, that's going to involve some link SEO and all that. And I do zero backlinking to these sites. So I focus solely on the ones that I'm going to be able to get traffic from, even in the tiny little suburbs or cities or, surrounding areas type thing. But with, when you have 140 searches, I'm probably not going to get a lot of that, because that's just very narrow of a search. Now, the pay-per-click on it was decent. It's above $1, which is what I look for. But just the volume wasn't there.
Right.
Whereas when I went to, what was the other one? I said solar pool heater. If we look at that one's 9,900 searches a month. It's got an okay CPC, but this will be one that I will probably build a site around, because I feel like there's enough interest there that, along with the main domain, and once we find with the main keyword, and once we find any of the keywords that go along with it that we use as tags, and maybe H1s and H2s, there's going to be enough traffic there. But I ended up on going after pool pump, and it's lower than, so the 10,000 rule is not always a hard and fast rule, but I try to make sure that it's obviously not as low as 140. But I try to go with keywords that are around that to get that traffic. And pool pump might not have as many, but then when I add a lot of those extra keywords in there, there's going to be enough traffic there to where at least I'm going to make money. Like I said, I'm going to make my money back in the time that I spent building it, and the what I purchased the domain for, and then anything after that is just profit. So,
Right.
I may make even if I make $100 out of this domain, if I've got 100 of these, it just adds up over the span of the year. And that's the mentality that I like to keep with these sites. Is I'm really just trying to make sure that I make my money back, the investment that I put in originally, and then after that everything's profit. But when you have it making money, especially with AdSense, where it just makes money day in and day out, just that profit just adds up really quickly.
Indeed.
And I ended up going with pool pump repair. Let's see, I checked the metrics for that one. It's 1,300. So I'm going to do a combination of pool pump repair and pool pumps themselves. So I'm going to, we're tying in the 1,300 here with the 6,600 from the first one. And then, we're going to go through this once again, and combining a lot of these different keywords to make some of the tags. So we're going to be bringing in traffic from a lot of different suggested type keywords, like these, just adding the S doubles the traffic. So we're going to do little things like that to make sure that we're getting traffic from as many different keywords as possible. I ended up purchasing the domain poolpumphub.com. Basically, when I purchase my domains, I just try to make sure that it's got somewhat of a mention of the base keyword in there, which our base keyword was pool pumps. I don't look for exact match domains or anything like that. We're trying to target so many different variations of the keywords that we're not really going to get an exact match anyways, because we might be going whenever we create the posts themselves. We've got all sorts of different variations on the slug, on the title, and the keywords, the descriptions, just a lot of different ways to hit it into as many different ways as possible. Once I purchase the domain, what I like, the way I have my workflow set up is I've got a Backup Buddy backup. And what I've done before we started here is I installed that Backup Buddy backup here. I call it my skeleton. Basically, it's just a base setup. If we visit this site, it's just, I believe it's a 2015 theme. I've just changed the colors a little bit. But it's just a base setup where it's got my pages when, it's got the terms of service, about us, the disclaimer, the stuff that Google looks for. I don't have any post on it yet, nothing, just basically I have it fully set up how I want it to look. And I've got all my plugins that I normally use on my builds.
What are your typical plugins that you use as a base?
The basic one is the BWP sitemaps, the Better WordPress Google sitemaps. Let's see, I use header and footer scripts just so I can put my tracking code. And the reason I use that one is so that I can switch themes around and not have to worry about making sure that my tracking code goes into the footer of the particular theme. I use insert PHP because of my about pages. Since I have the same page for pretty much all my sites, I can show here, I use a little snippet of code so that it shows, it uses the blog info URL or blog info name. So when you look at the page,
nice.
So when you look at the page, it just pulls that kind of stuff, and that way I can use the same exact about us and terms of service and everything, and it's going to be replaced with the correct whatever you set it up into WordPress, the WordPress settings. So that's what insert PHP is for. Main WP to get everything in the network so that I can control them easily. Let's see, obviously SERP Shaker and WP Refresh, which that's a private plugin that I just gave out to certain people with SERP Shaker. But this Page Generator Pro is a copy of SERP Shaker that I happen to be testing out. I forgot to take it out of my skeleton, but other than that, and the backlinks indexer, which that was a promotion I recently did for them, but that's been working out pretty well. I just have it set up to do as soon as the site is live, it's going to start doing like a 10 post drip feed daily into the backlinks indexer platform, and that seems to be working out pretty good for us.
Yeah, if you could show us during the build how you set up that pacing so that it drips 10 at a time, that would really be helpful. At least to me. I believe strongly in what Backlinks Indexer does, but for me, I've never been able to find a way to keep it. I just don't know how to keep it from blasting out all of those new post links at one time.
Okay, yeah, and they have it set up in their plugin here. We'll probably have to go to your screen and then I'll come back to it so I can just delete my API key before I show it to everybody live.
Good idea.
But yeah, it's just right through the plugin you can control that.
Okay.
So basically with my skeleton setup, this just saves me a ton of time, because that way I don't have to worry about installing WordPress, installing all these plugins, setting it all up, getting the theme to look exactly like everything is ready to go, up to the point where even with SERP Shaker itself, I've already added the shortcodes, which the shortcodes is what controls the city, state short, and zip code type setup. So, we have the list of, I believe the list I have with this particular one is a 17,000 list, basically targeting the whole US, but it's 17,000 cities, and I've got the city, the state, for all of those loaded in all the way from, to Wyoming. And then the same thing for the state short, it's just the abbreviation, and then the zip codes for those particular, and everything matches up 1-to-1. That's one of the main things that people ask me all the time is, how do you make sure that, this particular city here, this A bill matches up with the zip code. And it's just all done through, if you have Excel, the
Yep.
easiest thing to do is just open up an Excel sheet and put in all your short codes and make sure that everything's matching up 1 to 1. I believe I can just show real quick my, let's see.
Got the, and by the way, guys, there are a bunch of different variations of these lists available. So if you own SERPShaker, or if you are buying SERPShaker, we can help you find those. I've seen one that has an entry for every zip code in the United States, and I believe that was something like 42,000 lines on the spreadsheet. And I actually eliminated duplicate city names so that if Baltimore, for example, had 34 different zip codes, I just wanted one entry for Baltimore, and that took it down to right around 30,000 names. And I don't know how you narrowed it down to 17,000, Andres. Is that population based?
17,000. See that when I first started with building my sites, I just went straight to the Google API. I forget, what was it? Google API. I think it was the AdWords Geo API.
Okay.
And I got the list straight from them. If you could just go straight to the app, just do a search for Google or for AdWords Geo API. Click on that first result. You're going to end up with a list like this. I think I went to the cities one. And they gave you a list just like that. And you can just download it right from here, give you a CSV file. And their values end up being right around 17,000, I believe. So that's where I've got my original list from. Is I figured I would get it straight from Google themselves. These are, this is the list that they provide when people are doing AdWords advertising. And since I was doing AdSense at the time, it was just a perfect match because, if the AdWords advertisers are advertising those areas, then, the ads are going to show up on my AdSense sites. So it worked out great. And that's in their database. The 40,000 one that you're talking about, that came about once I started working with Dawn again, because we started, we did LPN back in 2011. We just kind of parted ways after that. That's when I was just doing stuff with local businesses. And that's when I kind of just hunkered down, stayed to myself, worked on my sites, and started building up my network. And it wasn't until like a few years later where we hooked up again, and he asked me what I was doing, and I just started telling him everything I was doing with the version then of LPN, and we decided to come together, make it even better, because at that point I was doing a lot of manual work to even build these sites. Like people now can purchase the plugin today, especially if they use the beta version. They're going to be able to build a 30,000 post site in maybe 30 minutes or so. And that's something that took me actually about a week to do back with LPN. So, a lot of the improvements were done to make sure that, I just didn't have to do as much manual work to get these sites built. But this was the list that I was using when I first reached out to Dawn, and then Dawn had access to an even bigger list. So I've been using a combination of both. If I want to get the site out quick, and it's particularly if it's just AdSense, then I'll stick to my 17,000 list. If it's something else, then maybe I'll use the 30,000 list. But usually I don't do anything any more than 30,000 or so posts. Although I've heard of people, especially in the group that we're a part of, doing sites that are 150,000, 200,000 posts. Which is just insane, but I've never tested builds that high.
And I want to point out, because there have been a couple of questions that are oriented around these lists. It's in no way necessary for you to do 17,000 or certainly 30 or 40,000. You can do, if you've got a good grip on a particular city. Let's say, for example, you've got a vendor, or you've got a contractor in a city who wants to blanket that city. All you've got to do is get a long list of the neighborhood names, the prominent street names, assemble that all into a list, and you can do the same things that Andres is about to show you with a national build. You can do that locally to kind of blank an area so that the leads that result can be serviced by whoever the client is that had you do this project in the first place.
Absolutely, yeah. You can definitely, do this to the local level. Now, obviously, if it's a brick and mortar type business or a service type business, there's more competition nowadays. So, going back to niche selection, when I'm picking my niches, I try to stay away from your typical trades, your plumber or your painter and that kind of stuff, because that's just been hammered to death by local type marketers. And then you've got businesses trying to rank themselves for that. So when I'm looking for niches, I try to go after niches that are, after things that people are still looking for locally, but they don't necessarily, it's not necessarily like a service. Now, pool pump repair, it's obviously a service, but it's not one of the main, I'm not going like after just pool repair on its own. I try to go sub niche a little bit more and more with each build so that I could get more and more of that long tail traffic. But you can also think in terms of, what are things that people would purchase locally, some things that they would purchase locally, but they would do research online. So you've got things like, maybe a particular mattress or something that's, kind of hard to ship, so that they're looking for a local type place where they can just go pick it up right now. Those are other good things to build sites around. But with like I was mentioning, and I've got it all pretty much. I've got my skeleton set up all to the point where all I have to do at this point is add the shaker page. The shaker page is pretty much the template that we're going to build our site around, because we've already got the shortcodes here. So what we're going to do with our shaker page is we're going to create a template, and we're just going to fill it in with these particular shortcodes that we've got created. So then the program can go through and replace anywhere we put a shortcut like city. It's going to replace that with the appropriate city name or the appropriate zip code or anything like that. And that's how you're able to quickly multiply your efforts by taking one template and having it go across 17,000, 20,000 cities or whatever list you happen to be using. And it's also not just you can load up whatever city list you want on there. So if you're in the UK and you want to focus on the UK, definitely do it. That we've got a lot of marketers in the UK that are taking advantage of this and then doing very well with local SEO with it. Australia as well, just anywhere in the world really that you can work with a WordPress website.
So I'm assuming that the genesis of the term shaker has to do with the idea that you got all these items in this list of short codes, and then you're shaking it up to create various combinations, and posts and pages are the result of that, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I mean, and honestly, we like the name of Local Pages Ninja because that was a better explanation to what it did. But when we launched Local Pages Ninja, there was a third person involved. It happened to be Don's partner at the time, and they had a falling out. So when we brought it back to market, we decided that we didn't want it to be, related to that at all. So it just wasn't anything there as far as, going back to the old one, although original owners of Local Pages Ninja that purchased when both Don and I were associated got a free upgrade. So we make sure that, we always take care of our customers on that end.
Something, this is probably a little bit of a deviation from what we're covering right now, but I have to tell you, I have had so many products, and I'm sure everybody on this call has bought products before where people, they get through the launch and they maybe fix any apparent bugs, if that, at the end of the launch, and then that's it. Basically they walk away from it, and you can buy the next version if they come around to one, or you can just lump it. And I mean, here we are. How many months are we? 8 months, something like that. 8, maybe 9 months after your launch.
Yeah.
And you're still bringing out beta versions, and this is not like a monthly product. I mean, you're just developing this thing. The latest version of this, I'm using beta 11, and I think there's a beta 12 right now. I literally, last night I created 4 sites. Each one was 30,097 pages, and I was now admittedly I was creating them on a fast dedicated server, but I was creating them in less than 7 minutes. All 30,000 posts were done. That to me is amazing. Now, when this product was first released, it was much less quick, and I had a lot of server timeouts and stuff like that. Part of it was because I was on shared hosting, and with some of this stuff, and over time I've upgraded my my computer capacity. But man, Andres, just my hat's off to you, because I don't know of any other creators who just go that extra mile. It's really pretty special.
Well, when a product like this is such an integral part to my business. Like I tell people all the time, I don't make my money from selling Surf Shaker. I don't make my money from being a product creator. I make my money from my actual site. So anything that I can do that's going to make it even better for me to make the sites faster, to put them out quicker, any little shortcuts I can do, I'm going to add them. And I like giving back, so I'll go ahead and release that as an update. I could just do the upgrades for myself and just kind of keep it into my personal use version. But anytime that I do, find a way that's going to make it faster for me, I just go ahead and package it up and release it as an upgrade. And that's what I've been doing, over the past couple months, and any little tricks here and there, we see here all these visual editor type shortcuts. These are all things that, I figured would just save me a couple seconds here and there. And I just released it as an upgrade. And if you notice, selfishly, a lot of these shortcuts here, if you click on them, they're pre-filled in with a particular shortcode. That's just because that's how I use them in my business. And so it just saves me time. If you have a different setup, you might have to change that out. But I just wanted to do things like that just cut down on the time. And then as far as rewriting the code to make it post even faster, that's just something that I've been working on for a couple months until finally broke through and was able to get it to post that fast. But I mean, it's been a huge change because I can do a lot of testing now, testing that I wanted to do that I just didn't bother with because it would take me a while to put the site up. So I would just focus on the niches that I knew were going to make me money. But now I'm able to expand into more and more niches and do some more testing just because of how quickly I can put them out.
Yeah. How do you index? Do you just use Backlinks Indexer now, or do you still use SemiEasy's Index Assault or any variations like Frank's Pro Pinger? How do you do it?
Right now I'm using, I still use Crazy Indexer, which is Don's product.
Oh, cool. I didn't know about that one.
I use Crazy Indexer, and basically once the site is done building, I'll go to the sitemap, grab maybe like 10, 20 random URLs, and I'll drop them into Crazy Indexer. And that's all I do, just to get the ball rolling. If we, once we get into the setting up the page here itself, if you do all the interlinking and stuff like I showed you, it should index pretty well on its own. I just, like to get the ball rolling. But even if I didn't do that, eventually, a week or two later, it's going to get indexed. Once the first Googlebot hits it, it's just going to keep on coming back to digest more and more content, especially since the sites are so big.
Okay, let's roll.
All right, so let's get into it. We've got it's pool pump repair, and that's what's going to be our main subject around. Maybe even just pool pumps themselves, and we'll touch into repair a little bit. So let's basically you've got your basic WordPress setup here. The only difference, or one of the main differences, is that I've made it to where you can have a different slug, which is what ends up being the URL of your site, or the URL of the post, and an H1 title, which there was certain themes that did that, but not everybody had access to that. So I made it to where no matter what theme you're using, you have that function. And that was great for over optimization. That way you wouldn't over optimize, because before, what I like to do is I would load up the title with different keywords that I was trying to target. But that same title or the same slug would end up being in my H1. The same thing would end up being maybe even in my title here. So it would just lead to possibly some over optimization penalties. Although I've done it recently and I've still gotten good results with it. So it was like hit or miss whether it would happen or not. But now normally I like to separate the two. So the way I like to do it is I like to fill up my slug, what's going to be the URL. I'll go ahead and fill that up with the keywords, any LSI type keywords in there. So we'll start out with, pool pumps. So I've got the 3 different, I've got the city, the state abbreviation, the zip code. And then we'll do something like repair service and state. And actually I can get rid of in on these because this is just going to go in the slug. We don't have to make it pretty. I'm just sort of throwing in a few different things. We've got pool pumps, we've got repair service, I've got the city, state abbreviation, the full spelling of the state. If I've got zip codes in my list, then I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the zip code here as well. And this is going to end up being the slug of the post. Now for the actual H1, I might just do this first part of it. I'm not going to do any of the additional type keywords. And I can just put that right down here in the Shaker page SEO settings. And then this one we can do pool pumps in city, state, short, zip. And this will all make sense once we publish a few posts so that you can see where these different parts come into play. Now for the content, what I'm doing is I actually just grab a random piece of content from Ezine articles or one of the article directories. So article dashboard is another one. So we'll do something like pool pumps. And let's see. We'll do a Google search over here. If Google Other decides to load up. Okay. So I'll start with article dashboard. Doesn't seem like they have any articles on that, so let's move on to Ezine articles. All right, perfect. Now the reason I go through Google itself instead of just jumping onto Ezine articles and finding an article there, because I've gotten that question before. I just like to use the Google search engine to see, they're already telling me out of that particular website what they think are the most relevant articles for this base keyword, pool pumps. So I know that starting out right out of the gate, I'm going to have an article that's in Google's eyes very relevant to the particular keyword or the base keyword that I'm trying to rank for. So, if I were to go through Ezine articles, they might go off of maybe views or just something different. But I'm just I like going off of what Google sees as highly relevant for those particular keywords.
Yeah.
And I'm going to open up a few of these. And see if any of these are a good fit. And I'll show you what I'm looking for once I actually. These are a little bit too general. Let me see if there's anything about repair. I guess we can just use one of these general ones. What we're going to have to do is basically I was trying to see if there was if it was something that I can just easily implement the city and state type mentality to be able to just insert that in different ways. But we're going to have to get a little creative to make sure that we get the city and state short type keywords in there.
I have found, Andres, I have at some point last year, I bought a lifetime copy with a couple of other guys of SEO Content Machine. And I know there's content something or other out there too. Is it called Content Machine? I can't remember, but there are several. Oh, and there's big content search, and there's what's the one, the article builder. There are a number of different services out there. Some are limited in terms of what niches they cover. And then there's just a whole world of PLR. There's no shortage of places to grab your content. And then if you've got Spin Rewriter, you get all kinds of help in the world, either manually or in automated fashion, spinning these things either light or medium, and then finding opportunities to drop in the city and state, sort of get that geolocation going on top of it all. But you can really do some amazing stuff, and it doesn't take a long time. Like, you don't have to sit down and write articles. You don't even have to go out and pay an article writing service for this kind of stuff, because it's just not going to make that much of a difference in terms of the result.
Right. Now, the only thing that I have to say to that is that there was a period of time when we went through iWriter and purchased the highest quality tier that they have for our sites, because we with this easing way of copying articles, you are kind of just stealing the content a little bit. Obviously, we're making changes to it, or we might end up combining 2 or 3 different articles into one. But it's still, we felt that, okay, let's get 100% original content. And for some reason, all of those sites bombed compared to our strategy of using Google to search easing article. And the only thing that I could come up with was that, by using Google and doing a search right off of easing articles, we were highly reliant on the fact that Google was going to give us already highly relevant articles to that particular keyword. So we already started with a really good base.
Yeah.
Now, when we got fresh content from an article writer, it was up to the article writer if it was going to be relevant content or not, or at least in Google's eyes, the content, the articles we received were really high quality articles. They never really panned out. So I haven't tested SEO Content Machine. I actually have a membership to it, but it's a Windows software, so I got to get anything that's a Windows software for me, because I'm on a Mac, and just extra steps that I have to do to launch the virtual machine or whatever. So I haven't played around with it too much, but I gotta test that one out. But for the most part,
let's go ahead and deal with this, because we just had our first question about the risk to your AdSense account. For example, if you've selected AdSense as your monetization method for the site, and you've done this, you've put up spun content, you've used easing articles. I know you've had some bumps in the road with AdSense. Tell people a little bit about how that works and what your feelings are about it.
About this particular method interfering with AdSense, or
about what AdSense, about what their view would be of this, and what the risks are to an AdSense account by using content that is maybe of questionable quality.
I've honestly never had any issues with the content side of things. My very first AdSense account, I got in trouble because I was, I put up my first site, started making money. So I was like, this is awesome. Let me put up, quite a few more sites. And I was just busy putting up sites and never realized that I needed to have the terms of service and those kind of pages on there. And that was also at the time where they didn't even give you warnings on a particular site. It was like, if one of your sites was in penalty, your whole account was gone. So that's one of the times that I lost an account. Another time I lost an account was during the time that I believe anybody that's ever done AdSense for some time lost an account. I think that was back maybe in 2012, maybe 2013. It was December for sure. People know, if they've lost an account during that time, they know that they were just bunched in with a bunch of other people. But it was just thousands of accounts that were gone during that time that Google decided to wipe everybody out. I honestly don't know what was the cause then. I don't know if it was, if I was still, I had the pages then, but I didn't know that you weren't supposed to display ads on those particular pages. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as your terms of service, your about us, those kind of pages, you're not supposed to display ads on if you actually read through their terms of service. That's the only thing that I could think of that was wrong with that particular setup. But I lost that account. So I've only ever lost 2 accounts At this point, they've got 3 AdSense accounts going, and losing an account, it stinks. You lose whatever money you've generated up to that point. They say that they refund it, but you have no idea if they actually do that or not to the publishers that are paying for those ads. But it's not the end of the world. Getting a new account is not as hard as you would think it seems. It all involves using a BPS. Same thing like a lot of you guys use for your SEO tools type thing. Using a BPS to fully control that account, to log into it, create it. Maybe just I haven't created one in a while, but what I used to do when I was creating new ones is I would just change the spelling of the address a little bit, maybe just make an error here and there and add an extra letter. And that was enough to get through their filter. Online banking account, PNC is the bank that I use, but just create an online banking account. That's where the deposits go into. And then obviously a different EIN number, which that could be done by just having a DBA. Just create a DBA and assign a new tax ID number to it, and that way you can have everything kind of as separate as possible.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a couple years now since I've had anything happen AdSense wise. So it's just, as long as you have your privacy pages, you're probably not going to have any issues with it. I've heard of people every now and then. It seems like they've changed their methods now, where you'll actually get warnings on particular sites. So if they don't like something in particular, one site, you'll get a warning on it, or they'll disable it for one particular site instead of wiping out your whole account. So that's a little bit better than in the past, where they would just wipe your whole account for no particular reason. But I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah, I know guys, I'm sure Andres knows them too, who they don't even spin content. I mean, there are people who will just grab content, from Ezine articles or a source, and just slap it in there and put some geolocation, some of the short codes in to create a little bit of an effect there, and just let it rip. And I've never heard of any of those guys talking about getting their AdSense accounts locked off.
Honestly, I'm one of those guys. I don't spin. I don't do any spinning whatsoever.
See, there you go.
So I've tested both, and the amount of time that you would take to make sure that the spun article is not going to be garbage. Plus, that extra step, it didn't seem like it added any extra value as far as how well I was ranking or not ranking. So I've gone completely away from it. I even used to throw a super spun paragraph at the bottom of my articles. If somebody's gone through my earlier trainings, they'll see that I used to throw like a super spun paragraph at the bottom just to give it a little bit more authenticity, and to make sure that it was not duplicated as much. But I even don't do that anymore. I feel that with a lot of the extra things that we've added, like the weather, the video, the map, a lot of those
all of
things,
which you're going to show, right? I mean,
right. So let me jump into that. But a lot of those things, it just adds to the making sure that it's very unique to that particular city. And that's really what, we've got I just copied and pasted the article here. We know that this article is very, very relevant to pool pumps. I mean, that's what I put into Google, and that's what Google, showed me that this was the #1 article that's relevant to pool pumps on Ezine articles anyways. So we know that the relevancy is there for pool pumps. Now what we need to do is we need to bring that relevancy down to the city level. So that's all we're going to go through this article, and just see wherever we can squeeze in this city, state, short, SIP combination. That's the one that I like to work with the most. It's just city, state, short, SIP. Every now and then I'll throw the full spelling of the state, or I might throw the city by itself. But for the most part, I just keep those 3 together. It's just easier to kind of copy and paste when you're going through. And, for me, it's just speed of things. It may not read perfectly fine, but, Google picks it up, ranks well, and people end up clicking on the ads. That's all I really care about.
It's just amazing, isn't it? It really is. For those of you who just are not appreciating the significance of this, just think about what Andres said. He's taking stuff that's already been written. You don't even have to write it. You don't have to run it through Spin Rewriter or Word AI, you just slap it in there and figure out where are some places that make sense to drop in this geolocation stuff, which is short coded for you and doesn't take, what does it take, Andres? Maybe 5 or 10 minutes to figure out the right place for it. And bam, next thing you know, you got a 30,000 page or 17,000 post site up, and it begins to start ranking. I mean, where else are you going to get that kind of leverage for that amount of time? That makes money. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, once it definitely has a learning curve, but I believe that once you learn it and just start applying it and just rinse and repeat, it's probably one of the easiest methods that people will come across to be able to just make their first dollar online. I mean, I've got message after message of people saying, that this is the only thing that they've purchased that has actually allowed them to make money online. Like they're a product junkie, just like everybody else, and they buy things left and right. But this is the first one that actually delivered on results, and that's good. I like getting those messages because it shows that what I'm doing as far as giving back and releasing the updates, that people are appreciating, and that it's actually changing their lives, and that's really what I'm after, is just to try to make sure that I show people another way to make money online. There's just so many ways to do it. You can take the same mentality and do it with local businesses. You take these sites and you start generating leads for them. I decided to go the hands-off way using AdSense, CPA, and all of those different models. So I never had to deal with a client, because I had clients. I had when I was running my consulting business, I think I had up to 50 clients at one point, and it was just a headache that I didn't want to deal with. Because it didn't fit in with my values of family time. Whereas this, I can put up the site, I can sit in here in the office, put up a few sites, be done for the day, and then those sites are going to bring me in money for the rest of the year. And I just do that on a day-to-day basis, to where I have enough sites to, it makes me a good monthly income. And, as sites die out or replace them or jump into new niches, but it's just that rinse and repeat mentality. You do the work once and get paid for it forever.
Got it.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through the article and see where I can just throw in the city state short SIP. So this part might be a little boring, because I'm just going to read real quick and try to see wherever I can throw it in.
Not to distract you, but do you look to do it a certain number of times? I know that for me, I put it in with the map, which you're going to show before it's over with, and then I try to do it 2 other times in the course of maybe 900 or 1,000 words. What's your density?
I don't look for a particular amount. It's just wherever it makes sense to throw it in. And normally usually at the very beginning, I like to throw something in. So I don't see a way to do it here. So maybe I'll do something like, are you interested in swimming? City state short SIP. The following article goes into detail about pool pumps and the service. So a lot of times the article will allow you to put in, pool pump repair right into the first one, but this one was a little bit weird. So I just wrote the first paragraph on my own. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this first notice of it and just make it bold. But I'm not, other than this entry paragraph, I'm just throwing it in wherever it makes sense. I don't look for a certain number or anything like that, because I feel like it gets hit enough anyways. Once we do the weather, once we do the video, or in the Google map, and we have it in the image as well. It's just the city combination is going to get hit enough to where, as long as we have it sprinkled throughout in the article, that's more than what you need in there. Let's see. I'm just getting really, this is a weird article because there's not a lot of places where we can really fit in the keywords there. I'm just getting kind of creative and squeezing them in. But really, I mean, I'd be surprised if this website ends up being one of the duds. Like I said, you know, we do have websites that are duds and don't generate anything. But I don't think I'm going to put AdSense on it since I am making, you know, everybody have seen the URL or anything, but I will track traffic and I'll report on the Skype chat once it starts getting traffic, because I'm pretty sure that it's going to start getting some stuff, especially now that, you know, the weather's getting a little bit better and people are going to turn on their pools again and realize that they might have some damage. Probably a good spring type niche to go after.
I noticed when you first did the original, when you pulled up the Google Keyword Planner page, you could see the ramp up in volume as we come up on the spring months.
Right. So, and that's another thing to keep in mind. And I actually just recently, because of, you know, somebody that we're friends with, I realized that you can definitely go after, you know, there's certain niches that are going to be seasonal. So if you have spring type sites, you know, they're going to get more traffic throughout this time of year. And then you've got your winter type services. So that's also something to keep in mind when you're selecting niches.
Yep.
This part here is, you know, this is what takes a little bit longer because you do have to go through and just see wherever you can squeeze that in. And if you're taking time and actually, you know, you read the article, you'll see that it may not fully make sense, but I'm just squeezing it in there at least, you know, maybe like once a paragraph or so, or I've skipped a few paragraphs. And, you know, like I said, I don't have a hard number that I'm really going after. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just, you know, just squeezing it in there. Google will pick it up. It will rank. It will get traffic. If it gets traffic, no matter what monetization method you got, as long as you got traffic coming in, you're going to make money with it. All right, so here we are at the end of the article. This is the last one. The last paragraph here. So I just squeezed in city, state, short, SIP, anywhere it made sense. I'm going to take this pool pumps one at the very end of the article, and I'm just going to link that to the home page, just an internal link going back to the home page, just to start building the overall relevancy of the site itself. Then I'm going to, now that I've gone through and inserted all my city, state, short, SIP, I'm going to go through and figure out how to interlink this. We've got one of the features in SERPShaker is these next post, previous post, and it's just a way to interlink your post using anchor text. Instead of doing the basic, a lot of times WordPress has a built-in function where they'll do the next post or previous post, but it's either at the bottom of the post, it's just going to say next post, previous post, or it's going to go based off of the post title itself. That's how they hyperlink it. By using our built-in function, you choose what the anchor text is going to be. So I'm gonna, for one of them, I'm gonna do swim pool pump. So I'll do next post and use that one, and then I'm gonna look for another variation, maybe pump repair, or let's see what I can come up with. Local pool company. This one's cool.
I am an idiot. I haven't even been using the next and previous yet in the week or two that I've been doing this.
And it does a couple of things. You know, a lot of these things were things that I used to do manually. I tested out manually at least first, and then realized that there was enough there to make sure that I added as a shortcut or create it into a function in SERPShaker. But it helps with indexing, because once a Google bot lands on the page, the first thing it sees, it sees an internal link to the next post or to the previous post, whichever one you put first. So it just jumps from post to post real easily. But not only that, because you're using anchor text, you're crafting what your site is about by the anchor text that's used between post and post. So, and it also, it's almost, you almost get like a little bit of a silo effect, because it's just going to jump through. And I believe the way I've got it set up, I'm pretty sure it is, but the way I've got it set up is that the next post and previous post is category based. So it's going to jump to the next post in that particular category, which the way I do categories, the categories are state based. So let's say that, they land in a post in Alabama, it's going to loop through all the posts in Alabama. And then the loop kind of dies out there. And then, if they land on a post for California, we'll loop through all the posts in California. So it helps with indexing. It helps with the sort of the silo effect. And it helps to build the overall relevance of the site. So that's one of the shortcuts that we take advantage. Now, the other 3 shortcuts that I like to use is I'll put them at the end. And that's where we're all focused about the city relevance. So I'll put something like more city information. And then we'll do the weather widget, which it's already pre-filled in with the shortcuts that I like to use. So city and state, which that's just going to show a little weather information about that particular one. And I can make this like an H2. And then we'll do a video, and it's asking for what the keywords are. So I'm just going to put in pool pumps. And this is the keyword that the program's going to use to go look on YouTube for that particular keyword. But then when we title it, when we're gonna put a title on this video, and this is it's all with schema markup. So that's why I wanted to add a title to it. We can just use the city and state short combination here.
So cool.
Excuse me. And then finally, the last one is I'll do something like other cities in state you may be interested in. And this is where I take advantage of this random post. And this random post feature, what it does is just like it says, it pulls random posts, but it's category based. Just like the next post and previous post, it's category based. So let me set the category first.
So if your category is Maryland, for example, it's only going to pull Maryland cities.
Right. And so usually what I'll do for my categories is I'll do something like pool pump service. So it's going to replace that, pool pump servers in Alabama, pool pump servers in Alaska. It's just going to go through the state list and do that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do this random post thing, and I paste in the category there. And this one can also be an H2. Okay, so the only thing I haven't done is I haven't added a map. Normally I like to do that towards, actually if it's AdSense, I'll do it towards the middle of the site, because I don't want that detracting away from where my AdSense ad unit's going to go, which I typically will do like one of the square ones up at the top somewhere using Easy AdSense. And then one in the middle and one at the end. Still testing out placement, but that seems to be working out well. And so we've got the map, which I added, basically was just a shortcut, inserted that in there. And we also need an image. So let's grab an image. Probably have to just do pool pump. Let's do one that we can actually reuse. I think we can use this one.
What are shoes doing under pool pump? Oh my.
Now, if that was an ad we wanted people to click on, we could use her.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of Andres, I was thinking of the shoes below her.
Oh, okay. Oh, shoes. Okay, I see that. All right, so let's save this. Yeah, I can save now. Before I save the image, I'm gonna make sure I get my keywords into the image title. So pool pump. Back to documents. Don't want to give everybody my niches.
Yeah, don't do
There. Pool pump repair at JPEG. Okay, I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna open up that image and because it's huge. Okay, now I can go over and maybe down here below the map, paragraph or two. Add that. Now I'm gonna add the city. State short zip. The title, the alt description. Probably align it right, not linking it to anything, and insert into the post. Okay. So now our base article is done. All we need to worry about is the meta title, meta description, and the tags. So meta title will do something like pool pump.
Andres, talk about the plugins at this point. SEO specifically, those plugins. Do you install any, and are any do any work hand in glove with SERP Shaker?
Yoast SEO works with SERP Shaker. I actually have a function built into SERP Shaker that if you want to use Yoast SEO, you can go ahead and set the title and the description without needing to have Yoast SEO activated at the time of building the post. Because what I found, I haven't honestly tested it with the new version, the beta version of SERP Shaker, but in the past, if you had Yoast SEO activated during the build, it does a ton of extra queries at the time of building. So it would really slow down the process of building the post. I don't know if it's going to do that with the new version, because with the new version of SERP Shaker, I completely just go around all of the WordPress functions, the typical WordPress functions for building a post. So it may not even be an issue, but it does work with Yoast SEO. All-in-one SEO pack for some reason it doesn't seem to work well with it, just because the Platinum, the all-in-one SEO doesn't work well with custom post, or at least the last version I tried of. I like to use the built-in Platinum SEO pack we've got into. With this Platinum SEO is actually built right into SERP Shaker. If I open up settings and tools here in a new tab, we go to SEO options. You have the option of using Platinum SEO. So if you check that, it's actually going to go ahead and add the Platinum SEO without needing to install it, because Platinum SEO hasn't been upgraded for quite some time. It still works, but the only issue was that it was just some graphical type issues where the interface, whenever you would look at this little box would overlap over here, and it would make the tags kind of unusable, or just some other stuff that was going on with it. So I made a few tweaks to the visual aspect of it to make sure that it could still continue working. But I've been using Platinum SEO pack ever since I started building my sites, and it's the one that I've always used, I've always gotten good results with. So I just kind of stuck with that, and that's why I added it as a built-in tool with SERP Shaker. But Yoast SEO works just as well. I don't know of any more of the other ones, but in reality, all we're really doing is just, I'm using them just to get the title and description in there. I'm not using any of the extra fancy features that a lot of the other newer ones have. All I'm concerned with is the title and description, and some themes even have that built in, so you can even use their built-in features, I believe. No, I don't think this one has it, but if you use Genesis, sometimes Genesis has it built in. You can even use their built-in type stuff. But we do want to make sure that we get a meta title and meta description in there. Not so much meta keywords. I mean, as you know, they're not really important anymore, but at least title and description. And what I did for the title here is I just put, pool pump. I added an extra little keyword in there, but obviously still sticking with the city, state, short SIP. And then for the description, I'll do something like needing, or no, F pool pump issues in city.
Looks like you went on mute somehow, Andres. There you go.
Am I still here?
You're here now.
Okay. Find companies offering pool pump services in city. We'll do something simple like that. Something to, you can get a little bit more creative here, just something to sell the click at this point, to make sure that, this is what the description that shows up in Google. So you want people to actually click on the listing. And then finally, the tags. Now, tags, there's a lot of different ways to come up with them. What I like to do is I use maybe some stuff from Keyword Planner itself, where we have pool pump. I did a search for pool pump, and but mostly I've been working with the Google Suggest type keywords, where I'll start typing in so these kind of things. And there's a lot of keyword tools that will pull out stuff from Google Suggest. Or you can also just go at the bottom here and grab some of these. So the search is related to it. So for this particular example, so I don't have to show up just a particular keyword tool, we'll use these. And this is what I've used for a long time, is the ones that show down at the bottom here. And I just quickly clean them up in a text editor where I got the keywords. I'm going to make sure that they are all nicely capitalized. And then I'll do a search and replace for this blank space and put in my short codes along with a comma, so that I got them all in one line. And usually the last one is missing that city, state, short combination. I'm going to take all these and jump over, add them as tags. And we'll do, normally I try to stick between 8 and 10 tags. I've got 8 in here, but I have been testing up to 20 now, and I'm still getting, because of the new version of Surfshaker, I can add 20 and not have an issue. So I'll do maybe up to 20 tags. And this is really your chance to get those long tails in there. And that's where, a lot of my traffic actually comes from my tag pages, because they rank just as well. And you don't have to create specific content for them. Just because they are a tag, they will use this content that we have here, and they rank pretty well. And this is just things that some stuff that I figured out just by testing. Because if you listen to the typical SEO stuff that's out there, some of them will even say don't use tags, because you end up with a ton of duplicate content. But then again, when we're working with Surfshaker, it's all about duplicate content, and it all ranks everywhere. So adding tags in there is just an extra way to get more juice out of the site.
Yeah, I've been using 20 tags, and I use long tails that I get from Longtail Pro, and I noticed that the ones that I've bothered tags with are getting so much more traffic than the ones that I did not do tags with. So for those people who are watching, definitely take advantage of it. It's really powerful stuff.
Yeah, usually with the main post, we're targeting the main keyword. Now, if it's the main keyword, a lot of time that main keyword is going to have some competition. It's not going to be as easy to rank. But with the tags, that's when we really kind of go after a lot of those long tails. And surprisingly, there's going to be quite a few long tails that end up being really popular. And if you notice, in your traffic stats that a particular tag is getting more traffic than others, then take that tag and build a whole site around it, just to even capitalize more of that traffic. Let's see. I'm at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just build some test posts so that we can take a look and see, make sure that everything looks good.
FYI, for people that didn't pick up on it because you don't spin, if you do choose to spin and you put spin tax in that description, in the description editor, in the editor window, it will take care of spinning it all out into posts for you. So
yeah, definitely. And I've even got built-in functionality with Word AI and Spin Rewriter.
there you go.
If you go to if you put in your your email and password for Word AI or your email and API key, you can honestly set up the way it works is you set up the post like this, then you set it to spin. It's going to go through the API, go through the content, and it actually will create a new Shaker page so that when you're looking at the Shaker pages, there's going to be a new one created that's going to have all the spun syntax in it. So then you can just take that one and build out of it. But like I said, I don't do spinning, so I don't mess around too much with that. But that is built in for people that do want to spin. Or you can just go to your, basically go to Spin Rewriter, put in the content, bring it back into the Shaker page and do the same exact thing.
Does it only make one API call out, Andres, for each page? It doesn't do it per post, right?
No, it just does that one API call for the template, and that's it. And,
okay, cool.
And then you get back a spun copy, and that's what it's going to use to create the content with. So it won't do it as it won't do it as a building out post that it's going to keep on calling the API and calling the API.
Yeah, that would take days.
Just that one. Yeah, and it will slow down the process. I'm all about what's going to make the process faster and faster. So so we've got the post created here. If we look at the very top, we've got the slug, which that's the one that I created longer on purpose because I've got pool pumps, I've got repair service, I've got the full spelling of the state. That's just that one there. Whereas here on the H1 title, we just have pool pumps in the city with the zip code. Going through, we've got the first link that pops up is I believe it's the next post, which this one just links to itself because I just did 10 posts and this is probably the last post in the loop. So once it reaches the end of the loop, it just links to itself. So the loop kind of dies out there. But the previous post later on, this one right here, does link to the previous city, Adamsville. We've got the little map that shows up, which is based on the short codes. The image should be I'm not seeing the little pop-up, but I'm sure if we inspect the element, we'll see that it's got the ALT tag with the city and stuff in there. Excuse me. Then I have the link going back to the home page. Then we've got the more info, which has got the weather widget. We've got the random video. And then the random cities based on Alabama itself. So basically, whenever you're creating these, you want to make sure you go through, make sure that everything looks good. Because you don't want to realize you made a mistake after you built out 17,000 posts. So that's why I just do kind of 10, go through it, and then go back to the Shaker page template, delete those 10, and then you can build them the whole site out, all 17,000. So while this is building, I think what I want to touch on is, we mentioned different monetization methods. Now, this particular site here, I think it would just be perfectly geared towards AdSense. And really, all I have to do at that point is, to switch AdSense on, is use I'm going to go through a different page here, but we can do the plugins, and I just use the Easy AdSense plugin.
Hey, Andres, one of our mutual friends, Todd, who builds a lot of these sites with AdSense, says that he doesn't turn on AdSense for a couple of weeks after he puts a site up. Do you ever? He says it helps. He believes that it helps indexing take place better. What is your take on that? Have you ever tried?
I've honestly never tested, um, never tested that particular thing, if it does help with indexing or not. I know when I first started out, I would usually put the site up and then 2 weeks later come back and put AdSense in. Lately, just for the sake of building out and just keep on building, I have it activated from the get-go. Um,
Yeah,
but
me
no,
too.
I have honestly never tested to see if it makes a difference or not.
Okay.
But I mean, I would think it would be a safer way to have it disabled until you got some indexed pages going on, because you don't want to all of a sudden jump in and have the ad showing across 20,000 posts with nothing indexed. It might raise the slight of a red flag, but so far I haven't had any issues with it.
Got it.
Now, so that's AdSense. Just easily activate a plugin and you're good to go. Now you've got AdSense code on your sites and you're making money with AdSense. If I were to look into other things, we've got let's say that it ends up ranking real well, and I just want to see if there's any affiliate stuff. You can do a quick search, pump affiliate, and you'll see that there's affiliate programs that you can sign up for and possibly make a percentage. And then all you do is you add a banner across the top. I mean, let me see if I've got any example. I think I let this one expired, because people are always asking me, like, how do you apply this mentality to CPA and all these other type of affiliate type programs? And it's the same type of site. Oh, this is perfect. Actually, I didn't let it expire. This is we've got HCG diet drops. It's the same exact, like I told you, the site setup doesn't change. This is just a different theme or whatever, but the page itself, if we open up a few of these different posts here, we'll notice that the only difference between them is the city. So it's not even a spun article, and it's just the city. I've got this particular button here, which I think it's broken. That's what it is. Yeah, this button's broken, so I got to fix that. I saw that recently, but it's the same exact site setup, and then you just drop a banner somewhere. And normally I'll have something here on the sidebar, but that particular URL expired too, so it's not even showing the right image. But I'll have like an image on the sidebar, maybe an image somewhere in the content, and just linking people over to where they can purchase this. This is a diet product, so where they could purchase that. I've had better success doing it this way than doing the typical overlay way that some people advertise, where what they would do is they would build this kind of site, but then immediately overlay the offer on every single post. And I feel what's going on there is that you're kind of forcing people to that particular offer. These are people that are looking to buy this diet product locally, and all of a sudden you're showing them this offer to buy it offline, so that it just kind of forces them to go there. Whereas with my method, they're reading the article. The article is not even what they're looking for. It's not really answering their question. But all of a sudden they see, okay, special deal. They make the conscious decision to click on that and go to that offer. Once they've made that, they're in a buying state of mind, and they're probably going to go ahead and purchase through there, and you get a conversion. Whereas if I would have forced them there to begin with, that's not what they were looking for. They were looking to see what stores in Howells, Nebraska I can buy this. And, they needed to change their state of mind to make a decision to buy it online because they got some kind of special offer that catches their attention. Yep. So that would be the CPA approach to it. And I've done this with ACG is not as hot as it used to be anymore, so that's why I don't mind showing this particular site, and I've showed it to people all the time just so that they can get an idea. But just whatever hot product is at the time, just find a way to approach it. And I believe I was one of the first ones to do this with, because when HCG first came out, I was ranking #1 everywhere for HCG. Now you've got quite a few sites doing it, and then Gardenia Cambodia came out, and tons of marketers hit it, at the local city level. So it's kind of a little bit harder, but there's always ways to get creative with it and maybe hit longer tails and, just find your way in there. Now, if this was a particular, let's say like a lead gen type site, so instead of having a, right on the sidebar, you could just have a way to collect the leads right in there, using contact form 7 or something like that. You can be collecting leads right off of it. Or if it's a local type client site, we just make sure that it has a nice header with a phone number, and you'll be able to get phone calls for your clients. So the site setup itself doesn't change. It's just the keyword or the niche that you're targeting, and then how you make it look afterwards. That's the part that changes depending on the monetization method. But the site setup, that part doesn't change. And that's what allows me to really test out so many different niches, because I can just take whatever base setup I have, throw up an article, insert the city type stuff with it, and be done and have it live. And usually within a week or two, you're going to start getting traffic, sometimes even less than that. I've had sites where I'll create the site, especially if it's like on a pay-per-call type niche. I'll create the site, and by day 3 or 4, it's already generating phone calls, and I'm getting paid on those. So it's very quick, as long as you get some indexing stuff going on. And
yeah, I think I noticed that we get some questions from people that have to do with, would you do this or would you do that? And I've held off asking you all of those questions, because what I'm hoping people have begun to realize by now is that this is a playground, and there aren't any hard and fast answers that apply to every single niche or nook and cranny. What's great about Surfshaker is that it makes it, for the cost of an $8 domain, you can have a go. You can test it out. And some sites they're just not going to work for whatever reason. It could be competition factors. Maybe you picked the wrong article. Maybe for whatever reason you just couldn't come up with a strategy. But you're only $8, and so if only 1 out of every 7 or 8 sites happen to work out, you're still way ahead of the game. Plus, you're learning the whole time. You're emphasizing things that you found to work, de-emphasizing things that don't appear to have worked, and so you're using the playground to improve your method over time.
Yeah, little by little, you'll see what works for you. I mean, I'm showing you what works for me. This is what's worked for me for the longest. But there's guys now, just because they've been involved with it since back in Local Pages Ninja, that that I talk to, and I'm like, really, like they even surprise me with what they're doing because of ways that they found to apply things and how they've improved my methods. But I'm just a rinse and repeat guy, so I just keep on churning along. Where some people will go more in depth with it, and you just have to realize that if it's worth it, that the amount of the extra time that you may have to do. I've heard of some people that the way they do their builds is more intricate, where they'll be spinning descriptions of images and spinning tag clusters, or doing all these sorts of things. And you just have to see if the trade-off with the time involved in doing that is really worth it, or if in that same amount of time you can just be putting up more sites. And my mentality is, instead of spending all that time on, if I start doing all that, it's going to take me a couple hours to be able to just get the article itself ready. Or I could use that couple hours in that same time to put 3 or 4 websites out. And I know that out of those 3 or 4, I'm going to have maybe 50% of them are good sites. So, 2 of them are good sites, but those 2 good sites are going to pay me, day in and day out for however long they stay alive. And like I said, some of them have had stay alive up to 2 years. So for whatever little 30 minutes of work I did, I'll continue to get paid for the next 2 years if it happens to be a really good site.
Got it.
And there's just so many different ways that you can make money with it. Once you got traffic coming in, just you've got just in commission junction alone in CJ, there's so many offers that you can put a local twist to it. Then you've got Max Bounty, and they opened up their pay per call center recently, over the past couple of years for their pay per call offers, and that's a ton of other offers that you could jump into. And you've got your private CPA type companies that focus just on lead generation for particular verticals, that those you can attack with the local type method. And then there's the new surge thing. The new thing is pay per lead, where you just go after local businesses, but instead of doing ongoing SEO, you get paid on a lead type basis. And this is definitely geared towards that. Instead of maybe doing 17,000 cities, you just do a combination of the long tails with the cities. And here, I'll show a quick. I think some people probably seen this before if they've done any training or seen any sites with me. But you've got the 5-minute site local keyword generator. So let's it's just a matter of putting in a zip code and putting in all their keywords. So if we're going based off of the pool pump, we got pool pump. Get a list from some kind of keyword tool or something, but just to show an example. And we can generate, then instead of radius, let's do a 25-mile radius. But we can generate this list here that we can then load up into SERPshaker as shortcodes. And basically, the way I would actually do it is I would put a comma after every single keyword here. And then submit this so I can get the results. Then I would take all these. Open up Excel, do a new workbook, paste those in. And I'm kind of rushing through it because I know that we're almost hitting the 2-hour mark and I want to answer some questions. But this is just one tidbit that I've given to people taking the local approach to it, and that have worked really well for them. And then we can split these based on that comma. And so we have 2 different columns here. And this could be this short code here. This could be like keyword and then location for this one. So if we create, in SERPshaker itself, if we go over to the short codes, we create one, just name it keywords. We'll paste all these. Whoops. And we'll do the same thing for location. And then we have, we can create a template or a shaker page where we literally just do keyword in location. We find an article that's somewhat related to the main thing, and wherever wherever something like pool pump or whatever pops up, we'll just replace it with keyword and location. So then you end up with a combination of, I think it was like 400. So you end up with 448 different combinations, but every single one of them is a unique post. Or it's single post that you can put on your site, and that's going to drive traffic to those local clients. And if it's a pay per lead model, then all you have to make sure is just have the phone number displayed nice in a nice little header up top, so whenever somebody lands on that, they have a way to contact that client, and you get paid on that lead.
Andres, do you know do you know any themes that have an issue with SERPshaker?
Not particularly that they have an issue. A lot of the Visual Composer type themes that take advantage, Visual Composer, those
Yeah.
have sort of given me issues, but it's because of they do things like they'll have the little squiggly brackets. So they'll have like a custom CS. I worked with you on one of those themes where they had these little squiggly brackets, and we
Yep.
just couldn't get it to work because the way SerpShaker interprets those is that it thinks that it's spun text. So if it sees any squiggly brackets, or it either thinks it's a shortcode or spun text. Now there are ways to make it work. Just make sure that you don't have any, the theme that you're using doesn't use any of those squiggly brackets whatsoever, or if it's going to use custom CSS, have the CSS outside of the post itself, put it somewhere, as a custom CSS file, and not have it be part of the post. But as far as I know, it should work with most themes. And one of the things that I've done lately is just make the post page itself, especially if you're doing with local business type stuff, make the post page look like a homepage. Make
Yep.
it to where it looks like the header, the business information, and the header and everything is very prominent at the top, and the post itself is almost below the fold, so that whenever somebody lands on it, what they're looking for is the phone number or a way to submit a lead. That should be very prominent at the top if we're dealing with local business type stuff.
So you build stuff up at the top of the post that is call to action oriented and push the ranking stuff, the text that you're using to draw the rankings. You push that down the page so that it's kind of below the fold.
Right. And you can get, somebody to make a theme that does that. You could have your content here like normal, but whenever it comes to displaying the post, this stuff will be pushed down, and up here would be some kind of header with a phone number and maybe a call to action type form. And then the actual content won't start maybe until like around here. So you've got all that real estate up there to kind of take advantage of.
Yep. We had a question about subdomains because they came up in chat, and it was around the time when I was talking about how an $8 domain is an easy, inexpensive way to test. And somebody brought up that you could add some subdomains. So tell me a little bit about your feeling with subdomains, and specifically how many you think is the practical limit, for example.
I haven't done enough testing to know what a limit would be. Mm-hmm. I've usually gone about 4 or 5 subdomains and have had good results with them. So that's definitely a way to get more out of one particular domain. The real times that I've used subdomains is when I buy a very generic type domain name. So let's say, for example, I could just purchase schools.com. And so I would do, pharmacy.schools.com, nursing.schools.com. That's when I used subdomains for the most part. For my regular websites, I tend to not do too much of subdomains. I just build the site right on the main domain and, move on to the next one. But I have to do more testing and see if I really want to hit subdomains hard or not. But if you have a generic type domain name that lends itself to just hitting multiple niches, then definitely go the subdomain route and take advantage of that, the wording, just work on the wording a little bit, and you'll be able to get some good juice out of that.
Yeah. Needless to say, folks, we went a little long today, and I've still got a couple of more questions to hit Andres with. So now is the time. If you have some questions, you probably want to repeat those in the chat window because it scrolls up relatively quick, and it's not like GoToWebinar in the sense that I can get a list of the ones that haven't been answered. So please type them again and let me know. Hang on, I'm going to put this, I'll put my mic on mute because the school bus is going by.
So while he's got that on mute, just I saw the chat earlier and saw some people that were saying that they were very interested in seeing about what I do regarding affiliate offers and all that. Just want to reiterate that the build process stays 100% the same. It's just how I make it look, it really just a simple, don't overcomplicate. It's just as simple as throwing a banner code on there. Max Bounty gives you those. So you go into Max Bounty, find the offer, look into the creatives, you get a little banner code, drop it into the top of your post, and you can do that using SERP Shaker too. Like, let's say you've built out the site, you decide that you want to put a banner at the very top, then you go to SERP Shaker, you go to this shaker here, and we've got the option to prepend or append type stuff. So you would literally, in this prepend here, take the code, make sure you're in the text one, paste that code in there, and then you can just submit it, and it's going to go through in all the posts and add that little banner type code to the top of the post. And that's really just as simple as it is. Once the site's getting traffic, like I said, making money off of it is not very hard. It's just finding what method you're going to make money, or which method's going to make you the most money. Because I've had some sites where on AdSense for the month, it might make me $30. And then all of a sudden I found an affiliate offer for it. I swapped out AdSense for the affiliate offer, and that same site with the same amount of traffic ended up making $900 for the month. So, you can make money off of it on AdSense, or find even something that makes even more sense for that particular niche and make even more money with it. So to start out of, I would recommend go ahead and give AdSense a shot. Get your feet wet with AdSense. Start learning the program, start making money with it. Start getting a feel for that passive daily income, that you can log in every day and see it just going up and up. But use it as a stepping stone and move on to even more profitable platforms like CPA and affiliate type stuff that's going to make you even more money, because the conversion is the price per conversion is higher. With AdSense, you get $1 a click. Where some CPA offers, you get $40 whenever it turns into a sale. So it just try to test it out and see what works better for you.
Yeah, and I since I started however many days ago, I think it's like 9 or 10 days ago, but that's not the important part. I've probably put up 9 or 10 of these sites. It looks like I've put up 11, but remember, 4 of those went up last night, and I've made so far today $23.77 in AdSense on that bundle of sites. So, it's not much, but you got to understand, I'm still indexing. I'm definitely have got a lot of work to do to perfect my method. There are a number of things that Andres pointed out in this call that I haven't even been doing with my stuff. So it's just kind of cool to see that on a relatively small number of domains, you can begin making money pretty quickly. It really does work. Andres, drip feeding. I noticed that in most recent versions of the beta, you've introduced an ability to reach back in time and scale posts in as far, and also to go forward in time, so that I assume what it does is it schedules posts to sort of drip out. Tell me what your methodology is, what your thought process is, and maybe what you've found to be best practices.
Okay, well, I can't take credit for that idea. Actually, there was a few members that I talked to that gave me the idea, because basically what they were doing is they were scheduling posts out into the future, just manipulating it. I forget how they were doing it, but they were doing something to where it would schedule out, let's say like something 365 days in advance. Some 500 posts a year in advance, so that it would just drip feed the content, and it would keep the bots happy, keep them coming back. And it just seems like you were always getting fresh content. And basically the way that they were doing it is, we built out our post here. I believe it's got 15,360. So we can have it display 360 posts. And then we can just go to the very last one, And this is just one of the methods. There's different ways to accomplish the same thing, but we go to this very last one here. We take all these and delete them. Actually, that's not what I wanted to. Well, let's go with these 240. So we've got these 240. I just got to remember that when I build out the next set of posts, I only want to do 240. So the way it worked, since I went to the very last page, these were the very first posts that were built by the program. So I know that since it goes in order, it only went 240 lines deep. So I can just go ahead and delete these. And then I can go to the same template that we used to create the post. I'm going to use the same one here. I'm going to tell it to do, or actually first I got to save the draft to make sure that I get this button here that says delete. I want it to go back to build. So I'm going to save, I'm going to tell it to do 240 posts, which was the number that I deleted. And I'm going to tell it to do it 365 days in the future. And I'm going to future date these. So I'm going to schedule out 240 posts for the next year. And basically, once we look at the post, we'll be able to see that they're just scheduled out. It's completely random, and we'll be able to take advantage of that feature. And I've got babies screaming in the background, so hopefully you guys are okay with that.
It's not all that loud. I can't really hear it. Don't worry about it.
It's you know, it's me. It's real.
Yep.
I work with babies all the time.
They say, Daddy,
Okay, so
you told us this wouldn't last more than 2 hours, so hurry it up.
All right, so now we see that these, you know, it's scheduled out up until 2016 for the next year. This is going to continuously drip out these random posts, you know, this random content.
That's really awesome.
And, you know, if you've got a good ping list loaded up into your, I believe it's the, where is the, I forget where you load up the ping list for. I haven't done it in a while for WordPress.
Yeah.
This update services. The idea would be to load up the ping list real nice here. Mm-hmm. And you know, every time that a post is made, it's gonna send out a ping, and it's just a good way to constantly have you know, new posts getting added to the site. So that's the idea with that new feature that we added. To constantly have fresh content going out.
Got it. Oh, and also I wanted to tell folks, because you just passed over it, but I'm on your list. So when you did that promotion with Backlinks Indexer, you offered for those people who bought a plan, WP Refresh, and I thought it's not for sale, but you know, I'm going to definitely be twisting your arm when this is over with to put something together for the Black Hat community folks. Tell us a little bit about that and why you came up with that plugin.
Yeah, WP Refresh is not for sale. I mean, I originally came up with the idea so that I could go ahead and sell it, but then I just decided to be selfish and keep it to myself. But I did offer it to people that purchased the BLA promotion through me. Basically, it's a simple process, but yet it's turned out to be pretty powerful. And WP Refresh, and I believe there's another plugin that does something similar. I forget the name of it, but somebody, when I was talking about the ideas, actually, it has my license key on there, so I'm not going to show that. But basically, all it does is that on a daily basis, it will go through and refresh the date of the post. And I don't know if I'm showing it. Yeah. So notice how on the post here at the very bottom, it shows the date that it was built. What the plugin does is it goes through the database and just change that to the current date on a day-to-day basis. And what I noticed that sometimes when the way I came up with it is sometimes my sites would get indexed. I would get that little notification in Google and the search results, you know, when you're doing a search that showed that it was built like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, you know, that little tag. And sometimes my sites, when they're first indexed, they would be above other older sites, and then they will kind of drop to the bottom a little bit. And it was because of that freshness algorithm that Google has in place. So what WP Refresh does is just changes the date on a day-to-day basis. So whenever the Googlebot happens to come through again and re-index the page or just check it out again, it's going to seem as if it's a brand new post. It's going to have a different date. So they're going to change the date that they have in their cache, in their index at the time, and give it the new date. So you always kind of take advantage of that little tag, that 3-day, 4-day tag, or just built today or whatever, and take advantage also of the freshness algorithm. So that little thing has led to a slight increase in traffic. Now, it's not magic. It's not gonna, if your site is crap and it never even ranked to begin with, this isn't gonna magically help it rank. But if you were already on the first page, and with this kind of setup, with this SERPshaker type setup, then it just gives you a little edge, and sometimes can even boost the ranking up a little bit, or even just the fact that it has that extra tag on there on the search results could lead to higher click-through rates on there as well.
Probably the final question, but the most important question for a lot of people, depending on their situations, is what about hosting that's robust enough to actually roll out these sites?
I mean, that's been the hard part, because a lot of, even with the newer version, the newest beta version, people still continue to have some kind of issue when building them out. Hosting them is not that big of a deal. I mean, I've had Host9 shared hosting for a while. My father-in-law as well, he's built tons of these sites, and his account's still fine on Host9 for hosting them. Now, for building them,
that's
it's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
So the building platform that I found, which I actually have the training on in the members area, that has been consistent for me, has been Vultr. And I show everybody how to do the full setup and how to get it running. And basically the idea is you do your whole build, and then you do use a plugin like Backup Buddy or a plugin like WP Sync to transfer that to a live domain. So you end up with a building platform and then a hosting platform. Recently, I've gone a little bit more advanced, and I use Vultr as well, but I found that I could do a Vultr with a cPanel setup. So I can have, you end up with a regular WHM cPanel type setup on Vultr, and I install my site on there. I do the build, and then I can just do a WHM to WHM transfer, like a cPanel to cPanel transfer, so that I can take it over to my to my hosting setup. And that's what when this test that we did live here, I built it right on the Vultr cPanel, and you saw how quick and everything, and it built.
Yeah, that was really quick.
But it's not. It's they're not powerful enough to host a lot of sites, but it's definitely powerful to build them really quick. So now that it's done, all I have to do is just do a cPanel to cPanel transfer, and transfer it to my main hosting type server, which I think in the next couple of days I will be doing a video for SERPshaker members on how I have that set up, because a lot of people have been asking me, how to speed it up even more, because they're using Vultr. But the problem with Vultr is that instead of having the URL here, you end up with just some kind of IP address, and that's what you're building off of. So you don't have, you can't use the home links, you can't use the main URL or anything like that. It just becomes a little bit complicated. Whereas what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it here, I can upload images, do everything just fine, and then I just package the whole thing up, put it on a new hosting setup, and I can delete this site off of Vultr cPanel and build up another one.
So it's with your help, it's relatively painless to do.
Right, and I also have, in SERPshaker, we've got a lot of training videos on how to install WordPress locally. So you can do it right off of your computer through WAMP on Windows or MAMP on Mac. And that's also one of the ways that I do a lot of my developing is right off of my local computer. And um, people were having issues with WAMP before the new update because it was still going slow. But with this new update, their sites are building out really fast on their computer and they're not having any issues with it. So that's another way, if you don't want to spend any extra money per month, is just build locally, follow the training that we have in there on how to install WAMP, set it all up, and do all your building there. And then it's right in the training itself, I show you how to transfer it to your live site and do all that. So that's just another option. There's a lot of options. It's just a matter of finding what works best for you.
Gotcha. Thank you, Andres. It's been pretty amazing couple of hours. I know it's a big chunk out of your day. You could have probably built about 8 or 9 sites while you were spending the time.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
It's great. I think people will really dig it. It's, like I said, even if I said this at the beginning, and I mean this, we don't pitch stuff on here. So this isn't, Surfshaker is amazing. I'm so grateful for it and thankful for the fact that Andres supports it. Like, it's like another one of his 87 children, because he cares about it and makes sure it stays up to date. But this is also not just about Surfshaker. I mean, this is really about using some of these techniques to take over niches and make yourself some money. So I hope, regardless of whether you never install or use Surfshaker, that you took the time to get some takeaways for both niche research and keyword research and those kinds of things, because there's a lot to learn here. But most of it is taking action, right? If you just sit on webinars all day and never put any of this stuff into use, you're going to get what you can expect. And so that's what Black Hat is all about.
If you're going to make
action.
Yeah, if you're going to make Surfshaker part of your strategy, just dedicate some time to it to get over the learning curve and then just attack it. I mean, you're not going to get results from 1 or 2 sites. I would say you got to get about 30 sites out before you're really comfortable and you have a good flow of daily income coming in, especially with AdSense. Once you get those 30, you'll start seeing what niches work better, what how your build process will change over time. But that's almost like the magic number that I've seen from people, is that once they get to around 30, that's almost like when the light bulb kind of turns on, everything clicks, and they're like, okay, I can definitely make some money from this, and this is the real deal. But 2 or 3 websites here and there, you're going to get some traffic, you're going to make some money. But the idea is to have a network of these, not just have 2 or 3 sites. And now, don't get me wrong, I started out with 2 or 3 sites, and one of those sites, one of my very first sites that I made, ended up making $800, $900 a month. I flipped it, a few months later for $9,000. But that was, I quickly realized that I had something and that I was gonna attack it and go after it quick and with pretty much all my dedication to it.
It's amazing, Andres. I mean, you basically you pretty much handed the keys to the kingdom to folks now. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to work. If you want to work in internet marketing, there's a ton of ways to make money, SEO, internet marketing, whatever you want to call it. But it takes action and it takes some dedication. And you got to want it bad enough. Thanks again, Andres. I really appreciate it. And I'll be talking to you soon. And guys, I do not, one of the things I didn't do is have time to line up, like any kind of a deal or a bargain for you guys with Andres. And I don't know what his limitations are, because he's partnered up with Don and there's complications, but I'll talk to him after the call and I'll do the best I can. And, I've got everybody's email address because you all signed up for the webinar. And if we can work something out for those of you who don't have Surfshaker, then we'll do it and we'll communicate it and you guys can do what you want to do. But thanks again for everybody coming. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Peace.